My name's Neil Havis. I work for Scotland's Rural College based in Edinburgh. I'm a plant pathologist and I do work on crop trials, specifically focusing at disease control in barley. So barley in the UK, we grow two crops. We grow a winter sown or autumn sown crop, which is sown in September, harvested in July, and we sow a spring crop, which is sown in March and harvested in August. So the management of disease is different in the two crops because the challenges they face are different. The winter barley crops that we have, they're sown in the autumn. We're getting increasingly wetter autumns in the UK, which means there's more challenge from some of the splash-borne diseases and the wet diseases, things like rhynchosporium, and also net blotch and mildew can be an issue in the winter barley crops. So in terms of disease control, with the winter barley disease control, we look at three timings to try and control disease. Because the crop's been sown in the autumn, by the time we get to the spring, there's been a lot of disease pressures. So there's what we call a T0 spray, which is aimed at checking the disease before it moves further in the crop. So often this is where farmers use a cheaper chemical option, some of the older chemistry that we have. Things like cyprodinil, which is still available in the UK, can be used as a cheap option. Because we have mildew as well, they might look at something like a cyfluphenamide or spiroxamine to try and control mildew. And then we move on to the T1 spray, which is a roundabout stem extension, growth stage 30. This is the really important spray timing to control disease in winter barley. This is the one that affects yield the most. So as I said, we're having a lot of challenge from some of these wet diseases like rhynchosporium and net blotch, and this is where we're advocating or advising farmers to do their biggest fungicide spend. So some of the popular options now are the combinations of the SDHI fungicides and prothioconazole. So prothioconazole is the backbone of many disease programs to control disease in the UK. It's been an effective fungicide now for over 20 years. It doesn't show the same activity it did when it first came to market, but it's still a very effective chemical. And it's a good all-rounder. It gives activity against a number of the major diseases. I've mentioned rhynchosporium, net blotch. It also has activity against the rusts and the mildews. So the big spend, we're looking at an SDHI and an azole mix. There are various combinations available at the moment. One of the things that used to be very popular with barley growers was a product called Siltra X Pro, which is a combination of the SDHI fungicide bixafen and prothioconazole. The company have now replaced that with something called Ascra X Pro, which is a three-way mix now. So it has the bixafen, the prothioconazole, and also an added SDHI fungicide called Fluopyram. So Fluopyram's been around for over 10 years. It's been a reasonably effective fungicide, perhaps not something that's been used a lot as a standalone chemical. In the three-way combination it's sold as now, it's shown to be very effective. We're trying to control resistance. We're aware of resistance management in the UK that can be an issue, so we advocate the use of Fulpit is the only multi-site that we're allowed to use in the UK, so we advocate farmers consider that in the spray programs. So they're told to use that whenever often. We have differences in terms of varietal resistance to some of the major diseases. Some of the winter barleys have reasonable resistance to rhynchosporium and mildew, but there's no known resistance to ramularia. As I mentioned, the spring barley crops we have, there's good resistance to mildew, complete resistance. They're quite weak on rhynchosporium and net blotch, and rust can be an issue as well, and none of them have control of ramularia, so that's a real issue for farmers going forward.